And welcome back to Never Done Asked with me, John Martin, and we have another station review. It's summer. We've had a record-breakingly hot weekend, so let's head to the coast and the East Riding of Yorkshire for the Northern Run station of Bridlington. Bridlington sits off Station Approach. The station site used to be much larger, so the nearby Station Road and Station Avenue no longer reach the station. We're on the east coast, so obviously the main resort is to the east of the station, and with the old town to the north. We're on the Yorkshire coastline, with Bempton 3.5 miles to the north and Nafferton 9 1/3 to the southwest. It's double track to the south of the station, but north of the station the line turns single track. Bridlington railway station has been the heart of Yorkshire Coast Railway story for almost 2 centuries. The station first opened on the 6th of October 1846 when the York and North Midland Railway completed its line from Hull to Bridlington. At the time, the town was still developing as a seaside destination, and the railway was seen as a way of bringing visitors from the industrial towns of Yorkshire directly to the coast. The opening itself was treated as a major civic event, with celebratory trains and crowds gathering along the route to witness the arrival of the railway age in Bridlington. The original station stood slightly to the west of the present building and was designed by the noted railway architect George Townsend Andrews, whose work became closely associated with the early railways of northern England. Andrews designed an impressive train shed and station buildings that reflected the confidence and ambition of the railway companies during the Victorian era. The station initially acted as the terminus of the line, but this changed rapidly as the railway expanded northwards. The section from Seymour to Filey had already opened in 1846, and by 1847 the line through Bridlington was connected onwards to Scarborough, creating the important coastal route. In 1854, the York and North Midland Railway became part of the much larger North Eastern Railway. During a period of railway amalgamations across Britain, under North Eastern Railway ownership, Bridlington Station expanded alongside the resort itself. By the late 19th century, and especially into the Edwardian period, Bridlington had become one of Yorkshire's major holiday destinations. Excursion trains brought huge numbers of visitors from Leeds, Sheffield, the Midlands, and even London. The railway was central to the town's tourism economy, and the station struggled to cope with the growing crowds. To meet this demand, the station underwent dramatic enlargement in 1912. Much of what passengers see today dates from this expansion. New curved platforms were added, along with a spacious concourse and long wrought iron canopies over the platforms. The design reflects the golden age of railway seaside travel, when thousands of holiday makers arrived on summer Saturdays. During the years before the First World War and through the interwar era, Bridlington Station became an exceptionally busy railway hub. It features excursion platforms, extensive sidings, engine facilities, and even turntables for the locomotives. Trains arrive from all over the north and central England, carrying families to the Yorkshire coast. Following the 1923 grouping of Great Britain's railways, the station passed into the ownership of the London and North Eastern Railway, commonly known as the LNER. The interwar years represented the station's peak. Famous summer excursion traffic continued to grow, and Bridlington thrived as a holiday resort. Even after the Second World War, railway excursions remained popular, held by attractions such as Butlins Holiday Camp at nearby Filey, which had its own dedicated railway station. In 1948, Britain's railways were nationalised and Bridlington became part of Britain's railways. However, the decades after nationalisation saw changing travel habits. The rise of car ownership and foreign package holidays gradually reduced the popularity of seaside excursions. The cuts recommended in the Beeching report led to the closure of many rural lines across Yorkshire, including routes connected with Bridlington. Although excursion traffic survived into the 1960s and beyond, the station's vast infrastructure increasingly became unnecessary. From the 1950s onwards, parts of the original Victorian station were demolished or simplified, platforms were removed, canopies replaced, and large sections of railway land fell out of use. In March 1983, the oldest original platforms were closed and later demolished entirely, with housing eventually built on their site. Further rationalisation followed during the 1980s and 1990s as services became more focused on regular local trains rather than seasonal holiday specials. By year 2000, signalling changes reduced the operational station to just 3 active platforms. Despite these losses, Bridlington Station retained much of its Edwardian character. In 2003, the station received Grade 2 listed status in recognition of its historic and architectural importance. The former goods shed was also later listed. In 2021, the station underwent major re-signalling and track renewal works, modernising the railway while preserving the historic station structures. More recently, improvements such as lift installations have aimed at making the station more accessible for modern passengers. We have 3 platforms in use here. With 3 platforms, we're going to start with platform 4, because the numbering here is weird. Platform 4 is a through platform for northbound services. It sits on its own side platform. It is 165 metres long. Platform 5 is a through platform for southbound services and is 168 metres long. It sits next to platform 6, which is a terminating platform for services from the south and is 131 metres long. My data site suggests there is still a platform 7, one of the old excursion platforms, which is unused and over 200 metres long, but on examination I think there is now a B&M Home Bargains there, and I'm trying to work out why I can't get relatable information from any of these sites I try and use. Platform 4 is linked to the other 2 platforms and the main concourse by an overbridge. Our magnificent friends at the Department for Transport Station Categorisation call this a Category D station, which is a medium staffed station. Marked for services, 3 out of 10. There are 2 services from here. The through service is the Sheffield to Scarborough service. This runs hourly in each direction between here and Sheffield. The train reverses at Hull. Scarborough is 40 minutes away, Beverley 25, Hull is 40, Doncaster is an hour 40, and Sheffield is 2 hours 10. There is a service to York from here, also hourly. It also reverses at Hull, and sometimes stops at the less used Aram station. Selby is an hour 27 away, York is 2 hours. The 24-25 figures put the most popular destination from here as Hull, with 74,755 journeys, followed by Scarborough, Beverley, Driffield and Firely. And now to the figures. We have 546,078 entries and exits, giving us an average of 1,496 daily. Service-wise, we have 457 scheduled services per week. This works out 22.98 passengers per service. However, there are passengers who use this as an interchange, so that increases the daily average to 1,499.4 passengers through the station and 23.08 passengers per service when these interchanges are included. Yes, an extra 0.1 of a passenger. Not many people use it as an interchange. Passenger numbers have been increasing steadily and recovered after COVID to higher levels than previous. Marked for onward travel, 2 out of 5. We have the 500 bus that runs hourly from Bridlington bus station to Bempton Lane, looping around the old town. The 501 is the reserve of the 500. The 502 loops around West Hill to the west. 503 runs through the Clake, northeast of the town. All of these services are hourly, but do not have services in early mornings or late afternoon and evenings. The 504 runs twice a day to Bempton Garage. The 512 and 513 squiggle around the town. The 512 looks like it runs on Sundays. The 513 running Saturday evenings. Marks for accessibility, 7 out of 10. This is going to be a start of a recurring theme. The basics are there, but the implementation sets it back. All 3 platforms are level access, with platform 5 and 6 directly accessed from the concourse, and platform 4 reach via an overbridge that has lifts at both ends. We have indicators. The station is staffed, and there are announcements. At the front of the station is a marked accessibility meeting point. So, I then arrived back at the station to find that Northern Rail's Council ferry had been on a vengeance tour. There was what I assumed was the Sheffield service that had passed me as I was walking to the station 10 minutes earlier. However, everybody was off the train, and while it was sitting in the southbound platform, the indicators claimed it was now the northbound Scarborough service. And the indicators also said the York service I was waiting for had been cancelled. There were no announcements, and when the train in the platform left, it left empty, heading towards Hull. A man tried to get information from the ticket office. However, he couldn't hear because an idiot on a mobility scooter with a speaker on the back was buzzing around the concourse. This is not the fault of the station, so I'm not getting demarked for that, but I'm just noting it in the accessibility. Another downmark is the clocks around the station. These are some elegant timepieces, analog timepieces. However, they're all stopped. On an accessibility issue, there are people who find it easier to get an idea of time by just glancing at an analog clock. Flashback to an 18-year-old me getting stuck 200 miles from home because of a broken clock in Liverpool Lime Street. And these clocks telling the wrong time and be misleading. Marked for station facilities, 5 out of 10. This was built as a destination station, and while many of the platforms have gone, we still have the building, we still have the covered concourse with the seating, the toilet, the ticket office. Platforms 5 and 6 have a vintage canopy and covered seating. Platform 4 has some covered seating and a waiting area at the bottom of the overbridge. We have both a station car park and cycle storage. According to the hilariously half-baked Hall of Hard Facts, that is the National Rail website, there are 43 car parking spaces and 52 bike spaces. Marked for care and character, 11 out of 20. This is a tough one. Bridlington station was one of the jewels of this line, and while in its glory days of holiday excursions and long gone, it's still an attractive station. The station concourse is pretty, with lovely period touches and a statue. We have lots of floral decorations on the concourse, and again, these are things I give marks for. I also give marks for the elegant canopy over platform 5 and 6. So why is this only getting 11? Well, platform 4 is a fairly miserable platform. There are a few banners that hung on the walls, but little else. And the bridge is quite dark and grim too. But that's not the reason for the low mark. It's the smell. The whole station reeked, emanating from platform 4 but drifting over the other platforms was an ethanolic stink of stale alcohol. This was a Friday afternoon, so it wasn't as if we were just recovering from a weekend. The smell was almost overpowering, and as the council ferry left me on that platform for over an hour, this was not a pleasant place to visit, even for somebody with such a poor sense of smell as me. Also, those elegant analog clocks that I was talking about, they were stopped. So another down mark for care. Marks for nearby things, 6 out of 10. Right next to the station is a Tesco superstore and a Lidl. Word of warning for people using the Tesco's to grab a quick snack from the train. The locals seem to have their favourite self-service tills each, so the crew moved excruciatingly slowly as they waited for their preferred till to open up. Moving further away, the town centre is a couple of minutes away, and beyond that we reach the harbour and the seafront. If I'd known about the whole train service collapsing, I would have given myself more time to explore. Overall, we get 34 out of 65, which is 52%. Station-wise, Bridlington is somewhere that had a lot of good basics, but the station management has let it down. This place stinks, and no amount of flowers can solve this. Bridlington is one of those towns that has a ridiculous amount of locals in mobility scooters and the corresponding amount of St George's flags hanging from buildings. So accessibility is good here given the amount of scooters. It needs to be, but the service isn't great. And in the end, we have the issue that the people looking after the station aren't doing enough to make both nasally and visually. The flowers aren't enough if the whole place reeks. This is actually the worst smelling station I have been to, and I went to New Clee, which is surrounded by fish processing places. Where's the smelly station you've been to? Put that in the comments. Thanks once again for watching this as I travel around the country. Please like and subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of the next station review.